From raving about his wins against Song Ki-nan and Daniel Rodriguez to predicting that he'll be ranked number 15 soon, this is Israel Adesanya revealing his potential UFC champion. Ian Machado Gary is making waves in the UFC, and he's caught the attention of the last stylebender. In one of his recent YouTube videos, Adesanya couldn't help but rave about the young fighter and his potential in the UFC. Izzy sees a bright future for Gary and thinks that he's the real deal. He's impressed by his wins against Gabe Green, Keenan, and now D-Rod. Adesanya even mentioned how Gary predicted catching his opponent with a right high kick before the fight. That was crazy. Izzy likes the way Ian carries himself and sees that fighting spirit in him, saying he's got that it factor. And Adesanya strongly believes that Machado isn't just a future champion, but that he could get the title sooner than most people think. And I can't argue with his logic. Ian's got an impressive record of 12 wins, 0 losses. But more than that, every time he steps into the octagon, he shows some sort of improvement. The guy is constantly pushing himself, going through the heat, and working hard on his craft. So, it's no surprise that he's considered a potential title contender in the welterweight division. I mean, the guy's proven himself to be an absolute beast inside the octagon. But it's not just about his fighting skills. Gary's also a legend outside of the cage. In his fight against Rodriguez at UFC Charlotte, he landed a jaw-dropping head kick knockout against D-Rod, and it was one of the most beautiful knockouts fans had seen that season. But just days after the fight, Ian put up a picture on his Instagram that left fans stunned. He was sitting with Rodriguez, the same guy he'd demolished a few nights ago, and here they were, just chilling. In the caption, Gary wrote, "Respect above all else." It's this kind of sportsmanship that just warms your heart. And it had the fight community pumped up, with everyone showing their appreciation for Machado, praising his fantastic performance in the match, as well as his humble and down-to-earth attitude. Fans were all over his comments, with one dropping a Mandalorian reference and saying, "This is the way." And it truly is, because how many fighters can you think of that don't become mortal enemies with their opponents? That's right, none. One person said this was what martial arts are all about: honor, dignity, and respect. And Gary and Rodriguez were like a breath of fresh air for the sport. Someone even pointed out how the Irish champ is becoming a star just like McGregor. But he's someone that kids can actually look up to. He's respectful inside and outside the ring, and that's why he's got a bright future. I mean, the guy's only 25 years old, and he already knows he's inevitable. Ian's even rocking a tattoo on his ribcage that says the same thing. Talk about confidence, huh? But here's the thing. Even though Machado is loud and proud in his interviews, he's also got this unique blend of humility. He knows he's on course to achieve great things in the octagon, but he's not in a rush and understands that reaching the top takes work, dedication, and patience. In his 4 trips to the octagon, Ian's aced most of the tests thrown his way, but his performance against Keenan at UFC 285 was something else. He experienced a real challenge when Song dropped him with a left hook in the first round, but he didn't let it break him. Ian survived the round, gathered himself, and came back stronger. He dominated the fight from there on and put on a show, unleashing a flurry of strikes in the 3rd round that ended the fight in the last minute. It was like fireworks in the octagon, and his composure and killer instinct has left everyone impressed because he isn't only undefeated, but also has some big dreams for his next opponent. Ian recently called out Neil Magny, who's a seasoned veteran in the UFC welterweight division. Ian looks up to the fighter as kind of the gatekeeper of the division, and according to him, if you want to make it big in the UFC, you got to go through guys like Magny. He knows that facing Magny would be a huge step toward climbing up the ranks, and it's a challenge he's ready to take head on. Ian even talked about it during an interview and said that in an ideal world, Magny would win his upcoming fight against Phil Rowe at UFC Jacksonville, because he's a bigger name in the division and fans are more familiar with him. Even though Gary has respect for both fighters, he wants the Haitian sensation to shine and perform well so that when they eventually do face off, it turns into a massive event. Going up against a fighter of his caliber is a massive step up from anyone Ian's faced before, and it's a thrilling challenge that excites him to the core, since this is where he'll truly test himself and see how he measures up against a top-notch opponent. He even has a 6-fight plan, and he's not messing around with it. After his win against Rodriguez, Gary wants to go through the entire welterweight division, 2 fighters at a time. Yep, you heard that right. He's ready to take on all challengers until he reaches the very top. And this way, when he finally gets that title shot, no one will be able to question if he deserves that spot. Safe to say, Ian set the bar high for himself, and even UFC President Dana White is fully on board with the youngster's ambition. He's been gushing over Gary's potential and drive, and after the fight at UFC Charlotte, White couldn't help but shower him with praise, saying that he looked awesome. And that's a big deal coming from the head honcho. He shared some insider info, saying he's been talking with Ian behind the scenes and has full confidence that the fighter will take over the world. White even announced that he's down for whatever, whenever, and wherever, and said that the kid has that spark that gets everyone fired up. And here's the best part. Gary revealed his goal to Dana, saying he wants to beat all the top guys in the top 10 and wants there to be absolutely no doubt or question when he fights for the title. This dude is all about earning his place, and Dana's loving this guy's attitude. He even praised the Irish guy's blueprint and how similar he's becoming to the legendary Conor McGregor. So they've definitely got big plans for him and are thinking of taking Gary to Boston or Madison Square Garden for his future fights. And who knows, eventually they might even bring him to his home turf in Ireland. And that's been the entire goal for the fighter. He wants a mind-blowing homecoming and is getting ready to bring the Thunder to Dublin. If he manages to fight in front of his Irish fans, it'll take his fame to a whole new level. Ian is stoked about the reception he received in Charlotte, but he totally thinks that fighting in Dublin would be an absolute game changer, and knows that when he's at home, the Irish support will be off the charts. And hey, they deserve to see their champ. The Irish fans have been there for him, supporting him every step of the way. Plus, they've done so much for the sport, and it's booming right now. Gary himself is on fire, climbing up the rankings like a boss, even predicting that he'll be ranked 15th soon. That's some serious progress. But there's more to the Irish MMA scene than just the young lad. You've also got McGregor making his comeback, and you know, that'll be a huge event, especially if Ian can somehow land a fight against his countrymen. We've also got 3 Cage Warriors Irish champions on the verge of signing with the UFC. Paul Hughes, Caelan Logren, and Rhys McKee are all ready to make their mark. But they should watch out, because Machado Gary is on the hunt to be the biggest Irish star. And if it comes at the cost of putting everyone else down, so be it. He believes that the UFC is bound to come back to Ireland because the fight scene is just so strong there, and he should be the one to make it happen. If he beats Neil Magny and also smokes someone else in that top 15, he'll be able to bring the UFC back to Europe, because to him it's all about reigniting that Irish base, getting everyone hyped, and setting the stage on fire. So, from predicting that he'll be ranked 15th soon to being impressed by his wins against Song Ki-nan and Daniel Rodriguez, here was Israel Adesanya revealing his potential UFC champion.